Yeah, I love how you have your, your toe in so many different worlds and what you do. You're an entrepreneur, you're also ordained, you also do philanthropy and have a nonprofit. Kanita is probably one of the busiest people I know. So to get you on this call, I know was a lot. I mean, she really does own several businesses and has been doing this for so long. And you also host your own TV show talking
Yeah.
about your book, This Is Why, and talking about the Bible and different things of that nature within it, and really teaching. To me, you've always struck me as a teacher. So for those of the folks that are now watching this, tell me why initially we met at a conference where I was speaking. Why did you decide to reach out to me after we connected?
Absolutely. Well, you said I'm a teacher. My passion is teaching. As you know, I am a licensed minister, so I engage in both teaching and preaching, and at church settings and workshop settings. A lot of biblical content, Christian content, because I am a Christian. That's the name of my book. I am a Christian. This is why. Um, when I met you, first of all, you just had an energy about you, and I'm big on people's energies, and how that translates to me, because I am such a busy person, but I'm also a very discerning person with the things that I endeavor to do. And you were one that I discerned was a woman of integrity. You knew your stuff, and there were some areas that I wanted to polish up, and you helped me streamline and tell my story in a way for a different audience without losing the integrity of who I am as a speaker, as a person, as a ministry, and showed me how to weave those together. So I think those were some areas that I didn't know, how to really put together. And I appreciate all of your wisdom and expertise. Listen, I appreciate that you are a woman who shares such wealth. There are so many people out here who have the goods, but keep it all to themselves or don't want to share. And so kudos to you both. That is why you are blessed and will remain blessed and prosperous.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Tell us a little bit about where you were before and what transformation took place between the time we started working together and what you were feeling, what you were going through, and then where you are now.
Got it. Well, before I was speaking occasionally, which is something that, because of the new business endeavor with This Is Why and the book publishing and the release of my own book, I wanted to speak more because I wanted to speak about the book, but I want to promote the book and promote the publishing services. My other business was pretty much settled and set in stone. I have a strong, solid clientele for that, but I'm building new clientele under the publishing company. So the speaking part is something to help get me out there, help me promote, and things like that. And I wasn't speaking as regularly. I didn't have kind of a set story, and you helped me to accomplish that. Since working with you, I have been speaking probably
Time.
3 times more than I had before. In fact, I'm trying to drill this thing in. You have to be careful what you ask for, but
Right.
I'm grateful, and I do credit a lot of the speaking, because it wasn't so much that I did not have the opportunity before. I wasn't as prepared as I am before. And again, the teacher in me needs to be prepared before I go out and before I say yes. And you helped me to be more prepared to say yes to the opportunities.
And what surprised you the most about working with me? Because I think a lot of people aren't sure what to expect.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go through it and they're like, oh, I didn't know it would be like this. So I'm just curious your take on that.
Sure.
What
Well,
surprised you
I
the
was
most?
already a speaker. I was a preacher. I preach in church settings on a regular basis. Even though my story that speaking was not something that I thought I would ever do, because of personal reasons and things like that. However, I was already a speaker, and sometimes when you already do something, you don't realize how much more you have to learn. And so I think that there is someone that, may be approached by your services that may say, well, what else could she tell me? I already do this.
Mm.
They need to know that there is so much more that they need to learn and will learn by working with you.
Did you find it surprising how much I was able to get into your story and edit on the spot, because usually that throws people off and they're like,
Yeah.
wait a minute.
Yeah. So I think that I my initial conversation with you, I knew you were sharp enough that you were going to offer me something. One of the things that you do, you get right in and really fix and alter and help with the story development and creation. It's not kind of a general scope of, well, how you should develop a story, or how, you know, you can edit or update or change or recreate or fix. You really get in and get specific and give real action steps and items and development, and you have this keen ability or sense to listen a little bit and say, I know where you're going or where you need to go with that. I see where you are without having all the details. You're very discerning, and you know how to take that discernment and massage the story in such a way. You know, even when I was writing in between our sessions, I'll write and I'll be like, oh, that's good. I did that. And then you'll get in and massage it some, and I'll be like, oh, that's even better. Here I thought I had it. And I would have never thought about it like that. You know, the other thing that, and I'm not going to ramble, but the other thing that you did that I kind of sang your praises behind your back about was that you had another ability to just take the story and take where I would go into the story and start rambling or going into too many different directions, and help me focus and help me see it from the end user. So I know what's in my head, and but I can't think like the audience. You gave me the audience without being in the room with the audience. So I'm
right, the perspective. Yeah, the perspective of always thinking of what value are we bringing to the person who's listening to this over and over again.
And as the writer, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
As the writer and the speaker, sometimes we only think about how we receive it versus how someone else receives it. So I thought that was especially valuable, because you were able to tell me, hey, if I was sitting in the audience, and it really helped to really further develop and streamline the approach to writing and to speaking.
Mm-hmm. And I think one of the things with you, and I remember this distinctly when we met at a conference where I was speaking again, I think one of the things that was different for you was also that you wanted to take this message and speak to audiences outside of the Christian sector, outside of just churches. You wanted to take this message and bring it to women empowerment conferences, and there's ways to do that, and you learn some of the ways to break out. I think a lot of people feel like they're in one area and they can't quite break it to the other, but we figured out a way for you to really understand, how do we weave this story and your positioning and your expertise in this way where you feel confident and comfortable going into this more corporate or more, let's say, general setting where we're applying to conferences specific to women and women's empowerment and helping women have confidence and self-esteem. You talk about relationships. There's so many things that she has in her wheelhouse, just from experiences and from also your trainings that you've gone through where you've invested a ton. What would you tell someone, though, at the end of the day, what would you tell somebody who's on the fence about working with me and signing up for my Speak and Influence course or anything else?
I would say that working with you will help to, again, really give them the right perspective, the preparedness to really go into, to continue whatever arena they're already speaking in, but also to operate in an arena that they may not be so comfortable in or have already worked within. Like you said, I'm very comfortable speaking in a church environment, but had not been as comfortable speaking in a more corporate environment or not necessarily spiritually or religiously related environment. And so working with you, I believe, at the bottom line is they can broaden their horizons.
The biggest transformation you received is, if you had to tell someone?
The biggest transformation was really stepping out of my comfort zone with the level of how much I wanted to share. I would share my power story, the transparency, but keeping it in a manner that it was still, it was transparent enough to reach people, and it was still, so what I'm really trying to say is, again, being a preacher, you have to be, at least you should be transparent. But I think you helped me tap into some deeper areas that I had not really spoke about or put into a message. So we went a little bit deeper, I think, or I know we went a little bit deeper, but I think that you helped me to do it in such a way that I did not feel so exposed. I felt like it was going to be impactful without leaving me vulnerable at that, unnecessarily. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. And now you're sharing that story all the time.
and what does that really mean for the person that's considering your services? The power story has certain elements that I learned from you. And one of them is vulnerability. And so a person considering working with you may not necessarily want to be vulnerable or are ready to be vulnerable. But I believe that you have a very strategic way of helping them draw out what's powerful and what's vulnerable without without it, and making it comfortable for them.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Right. You can still be vulnerable. And I think that when we hear vulnerability, we think, oh, that means that we're crying on stage and that means all of those things. But there's a lot of power in vulnerability.
There is. And that's it right there. They can be powerful and vulnerable.
And think about the best leaders.
Yeah. And some people think that, I'm vulnerable, I'm not powerful, and vice versa.
Right.
But
absolutely. I'm so glad you said that.
Craft the story in such a way where you can be both.
Well, it's such an honor to work with you. I know that this won't be the last that we're talking together, but
Indeed,
it's been an honor to witness you speaking more. She's getting, you said, what, 3 times the amount of speaking engagements from when we first started working together. You're in this other sector, this, you wanted to reach even more people, and you're doing it. And I love witnessing it. And thank you for trusting me with both your story and being your coach. So thank you, Kinite, for your time today.